Dun, 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 dun. Theoretically, we're live. Hey, world. I don't actually know if this is working, which is kind of.
We totally should have done like a little test run.
We definitely should have done a
Working.
test run.
That's okay.
Um,
This whole episode will be your test run.
that's true. We'll just talk and hope that it works. I don't even know, like, if I went on YouTube right now to see if it was working.
I think
Um,
if you go on YouTube, you can probably see if it's working. You just probably want to make sure you're muted on whatever you're checking it on.
okay. Clearly, we have lots of adoring fans because a million people have already made comments about how great we are.
Have they?
No, or not anyways. Oh dear, this is fun. So, how are you?
Good, good.
What's
I
happening
see
in
us.
life?
I see us on the YouTube. It's happening.
Oh, it's happening. Okay, perfect.
Mhm.
So, um, so life is good.
Yeah, life's good enough. Life
Okay,
is creeping closer to pre-pandemic ways, I think.
nice.
I hope for you as
Um,
well.
so for those of you that are watching, I'm Iris. This is my channel. I talk about cruises and crew life and travel and things like that. This is my friend Mel, and her and I met working on a cruise ship about 10 years ago, which makes me feel very old. And actually, my little fun fact is that the very first crew party that I went to was her birthday party, even though we didn't know each other at the time.
There were probably a lot of people at that birthday party that I didn't know. That's
It was like my second week on board. So
What did you come as? It was the Z&M party, wasn't it?
it was. I was an M&M.
Oh, okay.
Yep. All of my department went as different colored M&Ms.
Oh, amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember what color I was. I might have been red. So
I guess for people just
hey,
joining
we
us,
have a comment.
we have lots of parties on cruise ships. They often have like really ridiculous themes, but it was a Z&M party because a boy on the ship also had his birthday the same day as me, and his name was Zach, and my name is Mel.
Yep.
Yep.
It's a good theme. I mean, then you could come as anything, basically.
It's true. I came as myself, which I really enjoyed.
That's good.
Yeah,
That's a good way to come to a
clever.
party. Yeah. Yeah, and Melissa runs the blog Broke Girl Rich,
I
which
do.
is a wonderful personal finance blog where she talks about how to not be a starving artist.
Yeah, that is the
Which
goal.
is, yeah, so everyone should go check that out. And so when I asked Melissa to do this live stream, the premise was, where is a region that you've cruised that you really enjoyed? And so she listed off millions of places.
That's not true. I said this one immediately, and then I said, but I've only been there like once. Are you sure this is the one you want to talk about? But it's my favorite.
See, but once for crew is not the same as like once for normal people, like normal cruisers. So like, how is it? Did you literally do just one cruise, or did
I
you do?
literally did just like one cruise there. I stayed on a ship for 11 months. I did like an 11-month contract so that I could finish in the Baltic.
So where else was that 11-month cruise?
Let's see. I joined right after they left the Baltic the year before, and I joined in New York, and we did the fall foliage up and down like Vermont and like Canada, all of the northeast coast, which is really nice. And then from there, we went to the Caribbean for several months. And after the Caribbean, we went over to the Med and spent a few months in the Med before it switched over to the Baltic for my last
Gotcha.
cruise. Yeah.
Yeah. So so the Med season, the Mediterranean season, is typically longer than a Baltic season because it's further south. So a ship might get to the Mediterranean in early April and do a few weeks there before switching up to the Baltic. Or in the fall, they'll transition from the Baltic down into the Mediterranean and do like another month down there before heading back across, typically to the Caribbean. So your Baltic season is pretty similar to an Alaskan cruise season. So it's from basically May to September, plus or minus a little bit. I've been on a ship in the Baltic at the end of April, so there's a little wiggle room, but you're looking in terms of weather. Your warmest months are going to be, June, July, August. So, all right, are you ready to look at some itineraries?
Yeah.
Okay, so Melissa has not seen these itineraries before. We are going to focus on the Baltic region. A couple of these have a little touch of Norway mixed in. And when I put a blog post out about this, I'm also going to include other Northern Europe stops, including around the UK, which is getting quite big. And there's also some that are going from, Southampton, Rotterdam, Copenhagen, that are then making their way over to Iceland. So I'll include a little section on that as well. But for today, we're focusing on just some kind of more conventional, what you might see in the Baltic, as well as a couple that are a little bit extra fun. And they're at slightly different price points. So, okay, I'm going to this is me trying out this technology. It's gonna be great. So we're gonna go like this, and then I'm going to click this, share screen. Give me 2 seconds. Okay, there we go. Can you see the screen, Miss Melissa?
I can, yes.
Okay, so this itinerary is on Disney, and it is a 7-night cruise. You can also see the price tag there. So this is an expensive 7-night cruise.
Did the price just drop $2,000? Like what? Wasn't it like 7 when you just opened this?
Maybe. I don't know. I think this might be recording, so it's possible that we can check the tapes.
Okay.
Okay, so it has 5 destinations. It starts in Copenhagen, and then it's going to make its way to Tallinn, Estonia. Have you ever been to Estonia?
I have been to Estonia. It is a great place to eat bear.
To eat bear? Interesting.
Yes.
Interesting. I've been there a couple of times. I don't remember eating bear. I didn't go on any tours when I was there. I more just walked around, but it's very much like cobblestone streets. This picture is it's what it looks like there. It's very kind of idyllic. You feel like you could be in a Disney movie kind of deal.
Absolutely. I feel like you're like Belle walking down the streets and you want to sing a little bit and read a book.
Did you start singing though? That's the real question.
I did not start singing, no.
That's terrible. Okay, then this has a stop in St. Petersburg. So St. Petersburg, Russia is a lovely stop. A lot of these itineraries that we're gonna look at have overnights in St. Petersburg. This one is just there for the day, so 8 a.m. to 11:30 p.m. And what did you do while you were in St. Petersburg? Did you head to Russia?
St. Petersburg is my favorite place that I have ever been. I stayed on that ship for 11 months to go to St. Petersburg.
All right, tell me why. Why do you love St. Petersburg?
So I was really excited about it because my family is very Russian and I had never been to Russia. So I was like, if they're going to pay me to go to Russia, let's go. And I talked about it incessantly for 11 months. And I think like people who know me well, I'm fairly reserved and you don't know a lot about me, but everyone on that ship knew that I was looking forward to the day we got to St. Petersburg to such an extent that like in my position when I was on ships, I was a stage manager. So I worked with like a lot of different departments in really weird ways, but the Shorex would often like leave out of the theater. So I got to know the Shorex manager quite well. And I talked about this so much that for like months going up to it, he was like, we're going to get you on a good tour in Russia because I don't know if I'm sure you've told all of your people that crew often get to escort tours for free, which is very exciting. Yeah. So I was expecting like some like halfway decent Russian tour that he was going to put me on, but because we'd worked together for so many months, he actually like bumped me into a tour crew don't usually get to go on, which was like the top of like the Russian experiences with like 8 other people and this like one random crew member that he squeezed onto it. and we left at like 6 in the morning on one of the days and got back at like midnight. But we saw like everything, the Hermitage. We went to Castle Palace. We like took like a trip all through the city. Then we went outside the city to like some farm where we ate like tomato and borscht and like all this giant like smorgasbord of food. The whole thing was super amazing. So if you have like a really Russian, expensive Russian tour that you're considering, it might be worth it. Because I would like went through the day and was like, I would have paid for this, and this is like one of the most expensive ones. And also, I at the time was seeing someone who had been to St. Petersburg many times, and he's like, "You're gonna be a little disappointed. They're kind of mean there." That was like what he would say all the time, and I like was bracing myself for that. But also, you know, my family is very Russian, and what some people think is mean, I just think like culturally is they are kind of reserved, and sometimes it sounds like they're yelling at you while you're just having a conversation. But we went out to like brunch as the very first thing, and he was like, just keep your expectations low. Like, it's not going to be what you think it is, except I can read Cyrillic and speak a tiny bit of Russian, and that like changed the game. So I highly recommend that if you go. Even just trying, people who like wouldn't speak English before we sat down, all of a sudden were quite fluent in it after I tried to speak to them in Russian, and they could hear me like reading a little Cyrillic. And our like they just kept bringing us food, and my last name is very Ukrainian, which is a little bit of a thing between Russia and the Ukraine these days. So, but like they asked me about it, and half my family's from Russia and half are from Ukraine. So like all of a sudden they were just bringing us extra food to taste and like telling me about the home motherland and everything. So if you happen to be Russian at all and you go, let them know. You get an entirely different experience.
That is good to know. So I'm not Russian, so and I don't speak any of it.
I don't speak it very well at all. It's really like not even a small child's level of Russian, but
Yeah.
like just try. But this is true like in so many cultures, isn't it? When you go, if you even just try with their language, suddenly they do speak English and they're much nicer.
Oh, like even if it's just please and thank you, or like the most basic sentences that you can say, if you are even trying, then it's appreciated.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like pretty much everywhere. So I also had a good experience in St. Petersburg. I went there a few times, and I think St. Petersburg, like where you dock, looks it looks like it looks a little sketchy. You're like, wait a minute. I saw pictures of the Hermitage and the Church of the Spilled Blood, and I saw all these pictures of all these gorgeous things, and this just looks like I'm in. It feels very. I don't know what the very stark, very cold, like cold, not just in temperature, but in the feeling. And then you drive, like you get on the shuttle bus and you just go a little bit into town, and then all of a sudden you're seeing all of this opulence. And yeah, so it's a fun city. So an interesting thing for St. Petersburg is, for the most part, passengers have to be on a shore excursion to go ashore there, not because of COVID, but because of visa rules. So if you're going to St. Petersburg, make sure that you look into what the visa situation is going to be for whatever country you're from. I know that as crew, we had to have what was called a seaman's book to be able to go ashore there. If you didn't have that, so that's basically just an extra kind of passport that says that you work on ships, basically. And so we needed that to be able to go ashore in Russia. But so if you're on a ship that has a stop there, make sure that you investigate your what visa you're going to need, or if it's just that you just go on a shore excursion. Okay, the next stop is Helsinki. So I actually haven't been to Helsinki. The itinerary I was on just skipped this entirely. Did you stop there?
I did stop there. You know what's funny is that
what a good one.
Sorry.
What a good cruise you did.
It was a really good cruise actually. But in that case, like Helsinki for me was one of those stops where as a crew member, you managed to get off the ship for like an hour or two, but you've never been to this place and you're never coming back. So you like speed walk out into like wherever you can reach and like buy a piece of like finished food and eat it in a rush on the way back to the ship. And my main memory from there is that they were doing some kind of, sounds weird, something with garbage. So there was like a demonstration about like maybe the environment and like how much garbage like places go through regularly. So just heaped in the street was this massive mountain of garbage that was sort of like also an art installation or like a trying to teach you something, but it took a while to figure out exactly what was going on and why the street was just full of garbage. But
Interesting.
apparently humans consume a lot of garbage and the Finnish people were worried about that.
Okay.
That is my main memory of Helsinki.
Interesting. Okay. Well, I still have this on my list of places to go. I will report back when I go whether or not they have a garbage installation artwork. All right, Stockholm. Did you go to Stockholm?
So I was supposed to go to Stockholm on that ship, but we got diverted to another port, which happens every once in a while.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to butcher the name of it because I feel like Swedes have some really like interesting long names, but it's something like Nisha Shana.
Sure.
Sure.
Yeah.
And it was kind of a really strange, like, it was sort of a
Right.
cargo, more industrial port, which is kind of a common place that you get diverted to sometimes when you don't get to go to the main city. But it was deep in the woods, so we got to like spend the day just wandering through the woods in Sweden, and they were like lovely. It was such like a nice area, and like wandering through the woods, I was with a friend, and we found like an old car show, an antique show happening in there, and all the Swedish people we met were incredibly nice.
Well, that's good. So I am currently repping the Sweden. This is my Swedish shirt for the day. So I got to go to Stockholm a couple times. I didn't ever go to like Tivoli Gardens or anything like that. But we actually went there for overnights. So the ship I was on, we had overnights in Stockholm. And what was kind of interesting was one time our overnight, we were tendering on the overnight. So I don't know how commonplace that is now, but just be aware that's a possibility. The other option, I guess, was for us to be docked a really long ways away, and they didn't have a shuttle bus for us to do. So I think they decided if we tendered in, we could get like pretty close to the downtown. And I have a very specific memory of a bunch of friends and I going to a club, and I was wearing flats and all of the other girls were wearing heels, and I was like, I can't. They're like, well, you should get dressed up and blah blah blah, and I'm like, there's a lot of walking. And by the end of the night, they were like barefoot on the cobblestone streets, and they were, yeah, it was. Stockholm though, yeah, it's a beautiful city. It's a very fun city. I found Ben and Jerry's ice cream there, which is always fun for me. I'm from Vermont, so whenever I see Ben and Jerry's around the world, I'm like, yes.
Did the tenders run all night, or were they only at like certain hours?
They ran all night, but it was like after 10 o'clock at night or something, they only ran every half hour or so. So you kind of had to time it. And then, of course, as crew, I don't think we had a curfew that night. So, random for people that are watching. So as crew members, depending on what city you're in, if you're on an overnight, you sometimes will have a curfew. Normally, you only have a curfew if crew members have been acting up a little bit, or if you're in somewhere that's considered a bit dangerous to be late in the evening. So I actually don't think that Stockholm was a place. And St. Petersburg, actually, we didn't have a curfew either. And it gets, go ahead.
Doesn't St. Petersburg, there's a bridge or something, and it goes up for like 4 or 5 hours in the middle of the night, and you can't get back to the ship till like 5 a.m.
Oh, that might be right.
Yeah. So if you're going out for the night, you are going out for the night.
Yeah. Okay, a day at sea, and then back to Copenhagen. So that's the 1 week itinerary on Disney. I think it's a lovely itinerary. I think it gives you a good taste of the Baltic region.
Can I tell you something about Copenhagen that I thought was like heartbreaking because we didn't talk about it? I was really excited to see the Little Mermaid. That's like the big tourist thing there, right?
Did you not see it?
It was like lent out to a museum in Asia. So where the Little Mermaid was, there was a video screen on a rock showing the Little Mermaid now in the museum in Asia where it was lent out to, and it was like one of the weirdest things that I think I've ever seen. And I love strange roadside attractions and tourist traps, and it's still up there for like, what's happening? It's so
So
weird.
this is just a good reminder and lesson that you might go to a particular place expecting to see the most famous attraction for that place, only to have it not be there or not available or not accessible, whatever it is. So it
It's a real
happens a
thing.
lot.
And if I had had it like more together and put any effort into checking if it was there, everything like would have told me that it was not. So
Yeah,
if you just do a little research too, it might save you like heartbreak at the Little Mermaid
it might
statue.
be. I did get to see the Little Mermaid statue. So
Lucky you. Lucky.
okay. So I think it's a nice itinerary. It's really expensive for a week, in my personal opinion. I haven't sailed on Disney. For those people that watch cruise blogs and blogs online, Emma Cruises just put out a Disney video. She was on this past weekend. I'm super interested to watch it, to see what she makes of it, because she's also very into budget cruising. And so I'm curious to see what her take is on whether or not it's worth the money for it.
Well, you would get a little bit of like a budget bump, right? Because you're in and out of the same city. So that'll help
You
you with your
too.
flight. Because sometimes that's not what happens.
That's true. Okay. All right. So now that we've gone through, these are actually a lot of these ports we're going to see over and over. And so as we go through the next itineraries, we'll chat through it a little bit faster. Okay. Let's go with Princess. Oh, so this itinerary I particularly liked because if you're looking at the map, you see that it has Oslo. So you get a tiny bit of Norway too, which I loved that. I thought that was fun. So, okay. So this itinerary is starting in Copenhagen and then it does the little blip up to Norway. So have you been to Norway?
I haven't been to Norway. I was actually supposed to go during the pandemic year, like with my best friends. That was our like next travel plan. So you're gonna have to tell me about Norway now.
Oh my gosh, Norway is gorgeous. I think that so with Norway, I've wanted to for a long time. I should actually do a blog post about this and put pictures up and be like, is it Alaska or is it Norway? Because there's so much similarity. Like when you're sailing along, it's like you could just be out on the balcony and looking at the beauty of it all day because it's just absolutely gorgeous. And there's a ton of beautiful waterfalls, and Norway's beautiful. Super expensive. Most of these places are pretty expensive, actually, but just beautiful. So, I went to an ice bar in Norway.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so like, the whole thing is ice, and they give you these big jackets, and yeah, and it's I swear it's like it feels like it should be a joke because I think I went with like someone from Peru, someone from the Netherlands, someone from Canada. It was like every single person was from a different country, and I was like, this could be a joke, you know? So and so and so walk into an ice bar. Huh. Okay. And then we go down to Warnemünde.
I have not been there.
Okay, so here's the thing when you're looking at these itineraries, Berlin, Germany is not near the water. It is, so from Warnemünde, it is a 3-hour bus ride to get from Warnemünde to Berlin. And so I really wanted to go to Berlin. And so I, kind of like you, befriended Shorex. And I worked with my team and I was like, okay, you know, the next time that we do this itinerary, I want to go. But it's like a 12-hour tour. And so it totally messed up my work schedule and blah, blah, blah. But I went and it's a 3-hour bus ride each way. But yeah, so definitely worth it. Super interesting city, a lot of history there. And yeah, but just be aware that if you're seeing a place that has like the big famous city and then something else in parentheses, it might be a long drive to get there. That doesn't mean that you can't find your way on your own. It doesn't mean that it should worry you. Just be aware that you're not going to just be getting off the ship and voila, you know, there's the city there. So just when you notice those things, you're probably going to need to do a tour in some capacity to get to the main city. Warramunga itself, though, is a lovely little town.
I love your note about that because you did send me one itinerary to give me an idea, and it was like Dover, London, and I laughed and was like, no. And it got me thinking about the first time that I went into Civitavecchia, and they're like, it's like Rome. You'll fly into Rome. It's right there. And I was like, great. And I was like, an hour and a half, 2 hours on the train later, I was at the ship. But yeah, definitely. And I would second for people interested in cruising that when you see that though, that's like the best possible day I think to go with the ship tour, because if anything goes wrong, they can't leave you. And those are like days where things are more likely to go wrong, I think.
Yeah, especially when you're going that far into town. Like Piraeus in Athens is another one in Greece. You have to dock in Piraeus and then make your way in. Like there's quite a few that, you know, the main city is an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours away. But
Yep. I've been to
definitely,
Piraeus like a dozen times, and I've never made it to any of the cool Athens stuff.
we have so much travel left to do together.
That's
Okay, so then this has a sea day. And then we're going to stop in Tallinn and St. Petersburg with an overnight. And then, oh my gosh, this is pretty. This one
oh,
is.
that's it. That's it. Wait, go back. Go back to
Did you
Sweden.
see it? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. So,
Nynäshamn. So if you're on this excursion, you are stopping in the woods, not in Stockholm proper. But apparently they think they can get you to Stockholm that day.
Yeah, they will get you there. So, yeah. So when you see those parentheses, pay attention. Okay, and then we've got a sea day, and then back to Copenhagen. So something that you'll notice, I mean, sea days as a crew member, at least for my position, we're always significantly busier on board than a port day. It's not always the same. My husband's an engineer, and for him, it's the exact opposite because on port days, they'll have different contractors come on board. There's some work that they can only do when the ship is actually not moving, which makes sense because you're working on the engines and blah, blah, blah. But as a passenger, I think sea days are really great to have because otherwise, like a lot of, I mean, they stop 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. and overnight, like otherwise you kind of just are go, go, go. And these places are all incredibly beautiful places that you want to see. And so if you have an itinerary that has a couple sea days in there, I think it's beneficial to having you actually feel somewhat rested at the end of your vacation.
I can also throw in a sea day tip here too from my old job. If you aren't sure about where to go, it's a good time to go and check out what the travel guide is saying, because almost all, I think the vast majority of lines have talks from the travel guides who will tell you about the next few ports and what the best things to do in sea are. And they're always on top of like recent deals or like the greatest place to go eat, because I think they have one of the coolest jobs, because when you're in port, even though they spend part of their day like greeting people or sending them off, they're also encouraged to like go do all the things so that they can report back on it.
That is a very, very good tip. It's also a good time to stop by the shore excursions desk and see what tours there are. If you're not on a tour, and like if you saw this itinerary and thought you were going to be stopping right in Stockholm, and now you're like, I need a tour. That's a good day to do that.
And on sea days, Shorex often does a talk in, at least if you're on a Mel and America cruise, Shorex does a talk in the main lounge to tell you about what the best upcoming excursions are.
All right, so this one was an 11-night one. I like it. I think it's interesting that it had like the price for 11 nights is $1,698 versus the $5,000 on the other one. But okay, we're gonna go with another bit longer one. This is on Celebrity, and this is leaving out of Southampton. So you're getting, I know there's a lot of UK no-fly cruises. People are very into that from the UK, which it's awesome. If there were a lot of no-fly cruises that I could do where I didn't have to fly somewhere, I would love it. But I'm from the middle of nowhere, Vermont, so I guess technically there could be. I'd have to drive to Florida, and that's
or
like
you could come to New York and do the fall foliage. You can.
Yeah, actually, I mean, I've done fall foliage. I've done the fall foliage cruise, and I also did a Canada New England cruise for work in like May. And I was like, this is random, but okay. So you're starting in Southampton, and it's a very similar itinerary to a couple of the ones that we've been talking about. Very similar ports of call. You've got a sea day, which is nice. You get the lay of the land of the ship, get to enjoy the ship a bit. Then Copenhagen, another sea day. Stockholm, you can go clubbing. If you do, wear flats, don't wear heels.
I don't know if you want to go clubbing at 6.
Oh, actually, yeah, at least it's in the
Definitely
afternoon.
all aboard there.
Just kidding. Don't go clubbing in Stockholm. Tallinn, Estonia. St. Petersburg, there's your overnight. For you to, I don't know if they could go clubbing though because of the.
You could, but you'd have to really commit. Because I feel like they do even warn the passengers, because that bridge does not care who you are. It's
The other thing, for people that haven't been kind of further north, I felt like it is light out until 2 a.m. Like it stays light. It's like you only get this tiny little bit of actual night when you're this far north, which I thought was really, really cool. So something to look out for. All right, Helsinki, which you hopped off really quick. Visby, I haven't been to Visby in Sweden. That's 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. That's a nice stop. I'd be curious to visit there someday. Oh, two sea days. I think that's a lovely way to end your cruise. 2 sea days, just chilling, enjoying, relaxing, eat all the food. On Celebrity, they include drinks, so enjoy that a little bit.
Oh.
Okay, so this one is 12 nights, 15 day, and it's at $25.75, and that one Celebrity does include their kind of all inclusive at this point.
That's a pretty good deal at all inclusive.
Yeah, like including drinks and stuff. I know Melissa could make use of it. Just kidding.
I mean, you're not, but that's okay.
we met in the crew bar, so.
I was gonna say, you could make use of it too. The majority of people who've worked on a cruise ship could make use of it.
All right, so we're gonna stay out of England. So this is what you were talking about with London and Dover. So, you could fly into London, but you're not gonna be sailing out of, just right there. You're gonna have to make your way to Dover.
Which is also a good thing to keep in mind when you're booking your flights in, because if you're thinking, oh, we'll land that morning and make it over to the ship, like you don't want to cut it too close. I mean, I would be nervous to ever fly into a cruise ship the day that you're leaving, but a lot of people seem to do it. But if you're really far away too from the ship, that could backfire on you even worse.
Definitely. I would want to fly in, especially because if you have to go through immigration and do all of that. Well, actually, right now, going into the UK isn't as complicated. The US can kind of go through the E-gate some of the time and some of the places, which is nice. I actually got held at Heathrow once because I was leaving a ship. I flew from Rotterdam to London, and I was going to be staying with a friend for 10 days. And I didn't have their address. It was a friend of a friend, and they're like, nope, you're a flight risk. You're going to stay here forever. I'm like, no. So that was fun. Anytime that my friends complain about US immigration stuff from ships, I'm like, well, I got held at Heathrow. Okay, moving on. So a day at sea. So this is on Carnival. I know we haven't been talking about which ship they're on. For this region, we're more focusing on itineraries. If you're interested in one, obviously, like if there's a couple itineraries you're interested in, but the ship is really a focal point for you, look between them and see which one makes more sense for what you're looking for. The other thing with these itineraries, because they are so port heavy, with the exception of when you're having those couple of sea days, you're mostly spending the evening and the overnight on the ship, and then otherwise you're out exploring. So I think which ship you're on is less important for port heavy itineraries than it is for itineraries that, there's a whole bunch of sea days. Okay, so we have Copenhagen, we have Warnemünde. Remember that's going to be a long drive to get into Berlin. Totally worth it, but could be a long drive.
I like that they call this one Fun Day at Sea.
Fun Day at Sea. Well, Carnival's the fun ships.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, that's their thing. Is they're the fun ship. So they're the fun day at sea.
Huh.
Which Carnival is fun. I haven't been on this ship. I've been on the sister ship to this. I've been on the Carnival Legend, which is a kind of standard Panamax style ship. So the long and lean, lots of balcony cabins. Which lots of balcony cabins are great because sailing into some of these places and sailing around is also beautiful. It's different than Norway in that it's not as kind of mountainous and whatnot, but I think it was Stockholm, maybe. There's a whole bunch of windmills out in the actual sea. And so like when you're outside, you can see there's interesting stuff to see still. Okay, Helsinki, St. Petersburg. Anyone that hasn't done an overnight before, they really are fantastic. And I know I've joked about clubbing so far, but it's like, Melissa, she did the long, the 12-hour, fit it all in one day tour. That's kind of long for some people. Some people that might be more than they really want to do, or like if you're traveling with kids, they might just not have that attention span. And so if you're doing it over 2 days, you could, go see the Hermitage one day, go see Catherine's Palace the next, go see, Petrograd that afternoon. Like you can fit a bit more in, and the days can also be a little less action packed. It can be a little more relaxing when you have a few days to do it. All right, Estonia, Gothenburg in Sweden, and then back to London. So this is, we're kind of going with, these are what you're looking at for a standard Baltic itinerary. 12 nights. This one is $12.29. So that's about $100 per person per night to go see all these cool places. Yeah. All right. Do you want to go to MSC or Royal Caribbean next?
Oh, Royal Caribbean.
Royal Caribbean. Okay. So this where?
Why is that only like $400?
Yeah, so I picked this one. There's two parts to this itinerary that I find interesting that you'll see. The first is that it's $394. It's a week. That is like $60 per night per person.
So Iris, are we going? Is this one not out of the UK?
Yeah, April 24th. I don't see why not. Sure.
Great.
Yeah. It's on Voyager of the Seas. So Voyager, that's obviously the start of their Voyager class ships. So she's the smallest class of their big ships. She's still got like the ice skating rink and the rock climbing wall and all that jazz. So obviously we can go ice skating and rock climbing. Yeah, but isn't that a ridiculous price?
It kind of is, yeah.
Yeah, it's at the beginning of the season, so we could expect, with an April departure that the weather is probably going to be a bit more rainy, but we can have rain jackets, right?
That's true.
Yeah, okay. So this is a date, so we know what we're doing the end of April next year. Okay, the other part, new itinerary, show me the itinerary. Okay, so all the other itineraries that we've seen thus far have included St. Petersburg, either for an overnight or for the day. This one skips the St. Petersburg and focuses instead on, it gives you a couple of places in Norway, a little bit more in Sweden, and Denmark. So it's kind of in place of the St. Petersburg, the Russian aspect, you're getting a bit more of these other places. Also, there's only one sea day. Yeah, so this is pretty action-packed itinerary. If you're not that interested in St. Petersburg, but like the idea of seeing a bit of Norway within a 1-week cruise, I love this itinerary for those people. I think this is perfect. I love this itinerary for us because we can go see all these places for $400 a person.
It's true. It's a really interesting itinerary because I feel like Copenhagen and Oslo are kind of popular stops, but I don't even recognize some of these other ones. But that kind of makes it exciting if you travel a lot, when you can find itineraries that are a little more unusual.
Yeah, with places that you haven't been before.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So, all right. So, I mean, when we started this, the first itinerary we looked at was 1 week, and it was $5,000. More than it was $5,700. There are options out there. If you are a budget cruiser, there are options to find yourself on a cruise exploring wonderful places in Northern Europe and the Baltic that doesn't have to cost a ton of money. This is a great example of that. But you don't get to go to Russia. That's okay. That's okay. You can do that on another cruise. You're not meant to just take one cruise in your life. You're meant to take lots of cruises. My mom's opinion when we were cruising growing up is she's like, well, if we ever, rather than trying to fit like 20 things into one day, it was, we can always go back. Like, do what you want to, see what you can, but like you can stress yourself out so much trying to see every single thing in a place in one day. And sometimes the stress of it makes it so that you're not actually enjoying what you're experiencing. So, and it's ended up relatively true. I mean, definitely because I've worked on ships and then I sailed on ships a lot. I have got to go back to a lot of places. I know that's not the case for everybody, but okay. Let's take a look at MSC. Oh, come on. Why is this being funky?
It's going. Just have to.
Yeah, but it's only showing me like the very. See detail. I wonder if that'll make the other part go away. Nope. Okay. Sorry for those watching at home. This one is kind of hard to understand.
Do you have to pick one of the ships first, and then that will take you to the full itinerary for that ship?
Well, I thought when I clicked, let's just see, click available dates and pricing. I don't know.
Go up a little.
Okay.
See
me to click on
yeah, the ship. Or see full itinerary if you go back. 10-night itinerary.
Oh, goodness. Did you see where it said see full itinerary?
Yeah, right across from where you just clicked.
See full itinerary. Boom. For the win. Okay.
Teamwork makes the dream work.
Teamwork does make that dream work. Normally, Melissa and I aren't on the same team, though. We play Ticket to Ride against each other. And then Battle Royale. For those that aren't familiar with Ticket to Ride is a lovely train game that also teaches you some geography, which is delightful.
Goodness, you need an affiliate link for it. But it is a lot of fun if you're a heavy traveler because you get to relive all of your travels while you're racing to beat your friends.
All right, so this itinerary is struggling to load. We're going to let that think about what it's done in the background and hop over to the different side of pricing and take a look at Seabourn. So this is a Seabourn 14-night. This one's actually in 2023, but assuming that life is happening normally, there'll be similar itineraries this coming summer. This is on their Ovation, their Seabourn Ovation. Seabourn is coming out with a exploration ship, the Seabourn Venture, and they actually have another one of that ship coming out. They've started construction on it. So when you're looking at different itineraries, especially some of the more intricate and exploratory ones, be checking because there is, it's still going to be Seabourn quality in terms of the onboard product, but the ship is designed definitely differently on the Seabourn Venture. And it has a lot of extra features and stuff, but the price tag on that goes up even more. So just keep that in mind as you're looking through Seabourn cruises. So, okay, so we're gonna start in Stockholm. And my guess is if you're starting in Stockholm, this ship's actually gonna be properly in Stockholm and not the port that's like 3 hours away or a long ways away. And then Estonia. This features an overnight in St. Petersburg.
It's a double overnight.
Is that that's a double overnight.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ooh, double overnight. That's fun.
That's a lot of borscht.
You get that is yeah, double overnight. You get to explore a lot then. Yeah. The other thing to think about. So we ended up so as you're going, you're changing time zones on these itineraries as well. And we ended up on was it a Stockholm overnight? We ended up with a double hour back on an overnight port.
Wow.
Yeah, it was awesome. But also, like, it must have been that that there was like a daylight savings time shift at the same time that we were crossing, because otherwise I don't know why that would have happened. But there is hour backs and hour forwards throughout these itineraries. All right.
What I find to be an interesting like time change thing with cruise ships is that I feel like I've never in my life been so discombobulated as when you do an Atlantic crossing and every day you're like going forward an hour, because when you gain back an hour, like that's kind of weird too, but you just feel sort of more rested. But when you're losing an
Yeah.
hour every day and it just keeps happening every day, and so you're like at work at noon, but it feels like 6 a.m. to you, but that was like is like the most confusing and interesting thing I've ever done. And it's fascinating to watch the passengers because you guys just get to live your best life. Like, whatever, you sleep till 2 in the afternoon. But you have like these zombie confused crew who are like, I don't know, I had to be up at 8, but it's 2, but it's 8. I don't know. Yeah. I don't know. When you were talking about the hour back, I had like an intense flashback to one of those crossings where I was like, that was super weird. Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like it comes, yeah, doing the crossings is just so much because it's like every single night you're changing time zones. But if you were someone that was working the morning shift, by the time you did like a few changes in time zone, there'd be like no passengers because they hadn't adjusted.
It's true. I've always thought that was so weird too, because like it's a bunch of sea days and there was always a pretty set sea day schedule for the theater, and I'd be like, why are we still doing an 8 a.m. talk? There's no one. It's like 4 in the morning.
Like, everybody's sleeping.
It's like, it's me and my travel guide just sitting on the edge of the stage waiting to see if anyone comes in, trying to stay awake.
The joys of cruising and time changes and all that jazz. Okay, Copenhagen. Ooh, I haven't been. How would you say this? Aarhus?
Your guess is as good as mine. I've not been there either.
Denmark? Gotham?
They do have a lot of interesting stops here.
They do. Yeah. I mean, Seabourn is known to, you go to the big places, but then they also take you very much off the beaten track. Gothenburg, Sweden. We're getting a little bit of Norway, which is always nice. Amsterdam, Belgium.
Oh, I do love Belgium.
So this one is not a round trip, but that's okay because we started in Stockholm. Yep. So we're starting in Stockholm.
Can we talk about Belgium a little bit?
Yeah, I haven't ever been. Tell me about Belgium.
So I highly recommend that you eat some macaroons while you're there. I'm a little bit obsessed with macaroons, but it comes out of going to Belgium and having like the best ones I've ever had in my life. I've been trying to make them myself in America for years now with like not the same amount of success. No. But they're so good. There's also, if you like beer, there's a bar called the Delirium Bar, which has the most beer in the world to try. Like, they have the largest collection. I'm a big fan of most and largest and smallest because of my roadside attraction love, but this is like one of them. And I had a cactus beer there that I've never been able to find since. But literally, if you can think of the beer, they probably have it in that bar to try.
So if my husband is still watching this, my guess is he just decided we should go to Belgium.
It is very cool. There's also like this cool thing called the atomium, which is this massive atom structure that they built that's kind of neat. And underneath it, there's, what is it called? Little World or something. But it's just this sort of like fun, kitschy little place besides the atomium that you can walk through. And it's got all these little like sort of interactive dioramas of every country of the world. It's just like a really fun, strange little place. Brussels as a whole is a fun, strange little place. Like, it's a really great stop.
Well, I haven't ever been there. Do you know how far Zeebrugge is from Brussels?
I don't, because I went to Brussels like on a vacation.
Oh, you went there on vacation.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so I'm not sure how far that is. The fact that it's in parentheses, though, we've all learned at this point means that it's going to be a little bit further away. And so you should do a little research and plan that accordingly if you're wanting to get in to go to the bar with all of the beers.
Or just take the Shorex tour. I actually would not be surprised if like Delirium Bar is part of some of the Shorex tours. It's such a like a big thing there.
I could, yeah, I could see that. Actually, I've had a lot of fun. So I've gone on a few Shorex tours that include going to different bars and beer tastings and random things like that. And it's not always where you see the most of a city, but I feel like if you're a solo traveler in particular, it's a really nice way to meet other other people that are on your cruise, because everyone is, kind of relaxed. They're just, out for a lovely day. And so I don't want to, it's obviously not the only way that you can meet other travelers, but I've done them as a, escort before, and it's a nice way to meet the people that are on the ship. So, all right. And Amsterdam, we really haven't seen the Netherlands represented in these itineraries much.
No, this is the first one, I think.
This is the first one. So Amsterdam, obviously, very famous port, very famous place. Go to the red light district, all that jazz.
There's other things too. Actually, if you're going to Amsterdam, like right outside of it, easily done on the train, are all the windmills and all of like that sort of culture over there too, which is very cool if you are not a like pot smoking sex fiend. Like
yeah. There's also, Anne Frank's house and things like that too.
Yes.
Yeah. So Amsterdam, it kind of has that, people joke about the pot smoking and the red light district and whatnot, but there's a lot of history that's available to be seen, and culture, within the city limits. Just outside, you can see all the windmills and stuff. So there's a lot more to it than just, the kind of ha 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 thing. So.
I have another dorky ad for Amsterdam, actually. So if you are also like me and you enjoy some like really kitschy, dorky stops when you're in town, there's this company called, they do the Amsterdam dungeon. They also do a London dungeon and a York dungeon. Like there's a few of them, but they're weirdly good. Like if you like a gory, like ghost tour, creepy history there, they do these weird walkthroughs, but the history is like dead on. And I find that it's actually really well done. And a fun thing about all of these is that they all end with like a strange little ride, but it's like a good, like surprisingly good ride. If you keep your expectations low, because it is a ride in like a gory museum, but I find them to be like one of the best companies to do this kind of like, if you like ghosts and murder and like that sort of stuff, those tours are actually kind of worth it. And Amsterdam is one of the ones that has a good one.
Okay, there you go. Pro tip: Amsterdam. Do the
Amsterdam dungeon.
Do the dungeon tour. Okay, let's pop over to Holland America Line. We're talking about the Netherlands, so let's pop over and see what they're doing. So they oftentimes use Rotterdam as a home port for their Baltic cruises. It's a lovely home port. It is not far from Amsterdam. It's like an hour away. So if you're looking for flights and it's cheaper to get into Amsterdam, that's one that, you can, it's not too hard to make that work. Okay, so then a day at sea, Copenhagen, Warnemünde, another day at sea, Tallinn, St. Petersburg. So this one's it's very similar to the other itineraries that are being offered. And price point, we're at $33.69. So this one's a bit more expensive than a couple of the others, but it is 14 nights, so that part's nice. Cruising the Stockholm Archipelago. What else do we have? Oh, some Denmark. And then back to Rotterdam. So it looks like the kind of differentiation on this one is the Aarhus in Denmark. And it's an overnight in Stockholm.
And a scenic cruising.
And they're scenic cruising. So you can't go wrong with the scenic. You can't go wrong with any of these itineraries. Honestly, it's just making me want to travel.
It's true.
Yeah. What ship is this on? Oh, the Volendam. So this is on one of their smaller ships. Yeah, one of their little ones, one of the little ones that's left. All right. So, and again, if you're into the ships and whatnot, and you find a couple itineraries that are relatively similar, it's a great thing to have choices. So take a look at once you find the itineraries that you like, take a look at the ships and see which, ship is going to kind of work for you.
I would also point out to keep an eye out. Iris pointed out one of them comes with like a drink package, and you may think like you're not going to drink that much, and maybe you won't, but I think there's something to like when you don't have to think about it too that makes it like much nicer on a vacation.
So I've been lucky enough to cruise on Seabourn a couple of times, and the fact that you go to the bar and you never show no one's ever asking for a card. Like, it's such a small thing to have just taken out of the hassle of cruise ship life. I mean, when you're on a cruise, your life isn't that much hassle anyways, but you didn't have to, card, you didn't have to sign anything. Like, it's just, you walk to the bar and they recognize you and they know that you happen to like a Hemingway daiquiri and they give you one, and it's great.
What is a Hemingway daiquiri?
It is served in like a martini glass, but it's still rum based and it's maybe grapefruit in it. But it's a very classy drink. Like, it's classy when you drink it. Another thing that comes when you're on like anything that's all inclusive is you get to try things like a Hemingway daiquiri that you might never have actually paid for otherwise.
Okay.
So now we're on P&O. So P&O is British Cruise Line. It's leaving out of Southampton, which makes sense. And show me the itinerary. Show itinerary. Okay, so Southampton, day at sea, Gothenburg, day at sea, Bornholm, Denmark. We have
Poland.
Poland. That's the first Poland that we've seen on an itinerary so far.
I thought Poland was landlocked. Is it not?
I think there's like I think there's a little bit.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Also Lithuania.
This is a very exciting itinerary.
Sweden.
I'm gonna go to Poland.
An overnight in Russia. Warnemünde, so you can make your way to Germany. Copenhagen, Warnemünde is in Germany, sorry. You make your way to Berlin. And then you have 2 days at sea and then back to Southampton. So this itinerary is actually 17 nights long, but it's a super cool itinerary.
It's a really cool itinerary, yeah. I think this one's actually my favorite that we've looked at so far.
I love the Lithuania and the Poland because it's just not on other itineraries, like at all.
Yeah.
So that could be fun. That could be great, actually. Let's see. What is our price tag on this one? Cabins and prices.
17 nights. I feel like you should turn this into a game for the people who do this in the future. What do you think it costs?
How much is it?
Yes.
So £1,500, so probably $1,800 probably for 17 nights. That's actually not bad.
That is really low. £7 per person or per night is like $100 a night.
Yeah. There we go. That could be the other one. I don't know. I still like the price tag on that Royal Caribbean, that $400.
I mean, yes, that's true. Well, if you're budget cruising, sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do. If you you get to branch out.
All right, I think that's all of the ones that I had bookmarked for us. Oh, let's see if the MSC one ever came up. See full itinerary. Or was I on the itinerary and then I just made it upset?
I don't know. But you did really nail the time. You were like, let's do this for an hour, and it's 15 minutes and 37 seconds right now.
I'm kind of surprised that we were this close to an hour because I talk a lot. Like, when I go to make a video to put on here, oh my gosh, I'm like, how did I talk this much about cruise ships? But
you're very passionate about the subject, as you should be as a cruise ship blogger.
I do. The reason that I went to work on cruise ships because I wanted to travel and see the world. And I also love being on a ship. I love being at sea. I love that you can go to so many different places. Why is this one just being so difficult for me today? And I feel like
when you click that, it doesn't.
It just kind of sits here.
Well, MSC Cruises, this is not like advertising you very well.
One of my favorite people that I interact with on Twitter is really big into MSC and the MSC Yacht Club. And
Then maybe it's just your internet. I'm sure it's not MSC.
so I wanted to highlight an MSC ship specific for him in case he watched.
Well, now you have a way to reach out to him, and you can be like, "How do you navigate this website, dude? Could you explain
what is happening here?"
Yeah.
Anyways, thank you so much for joining me for this lovely chat.
Of course, it was fun, and it's good to see you.
I hope to see you in person at some point. That would be fun.
That would be fun.
Yeah, maybe on that cruise in April.
Maybe.
That's a long time away, though. We should do something before then.
I kind of had something in mind, but I was seeing how a few things in my life lined up before I mentioned it to you.
Are you going to mention it now or no?
What?
Are you going to mention it now or no?
Well, I don't know whether or not I will be working in December, but I was thinking if I wasn't, like, maybe you mentioned you wanted to cruise where Stuart was. I was like, where is Stuart? Tell me.
He's going to be in the Caribbean. We can pop down.
I know that's not exciting, but it's usually not that expensive either. So
that's true.
Sorry, everyone who loves Caribbean cruises, I'm sure it's very exciting to you. But when you spend like all winter there for several years, it becomes a little less exciting.
Yeah, it can get a little repetitive. But when you're leaving from the winter, the warm is nice.
That's true. So I was going to float that idea by you.
I will totally go on a cruise with you to go see Stuart.
I kind of figured.
Oh my gosh. Yes. Okay.
I didn't want to get you excited and then be like, sorry, by the way, Iris, I actually have to go to work. Never mind.
All right. For everyone watching, I now have a plan. We're going to go cruising to go see Stuart. But if she works, that's good too.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you very much.
Of course.
Oh, we've got a lovely comment. This is in fact.
It's been there the whole time. Did you
know? No, hold on. We've got another one. Look at that.
Well, we have 2 comments.
They're both from my husband. Oh, I love it. Okay.
That's how you do marriage right. Hi, Stuart.
Yeah. He's supposed to be sleeping right now. He goes to work at 6 in the afternoon. He goes to work in a couple hours, so he's supposed to be sleeping. But anyways, thank you very much for joining me. For anyone that's watching at home, thank you for joining us. This was my first time doing a YouTube live. What?
I said it was both of our first times.
It was both of our first times. So thank you. I appreciate any kindness and understanding with the fact that this technology is new to me. So, okay. Thanks. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
And broadcast. There we go.